fuck remote controller, man? What the fuck, nigga? This place.
Coronavirus. Today we are announcing new city actions and more of those changes. The city is taking further action because we are dealing with a global pandemic unlike any other that we have seen in modern times. Around the world and the United States, we are seeing this virus spread at an almost exponential rate. In northern Italy, we have seen the healthcare system completely overwhelmed by the virus, resulting in avoidable deaths, we believe, of patients infected by the virus, patients suffering from other illnesses, and healthcare workers. Within this country, in Seattle, the site of the earliest and largest COVID-19 outbreak in America to date, medical supplies are running low, administrators are searching for ways to expand hospital bed capacity, healthcare workers are being asked to work extra shifts as their peers self-isolate, and hospital administrators are rapidly changing protocols as the outbreak stresses the system. That is what we're trying to avoid. Here in Vermont, we are hopeful that we may still be able to take decisive steps to slow the spread of the virus and keep our healthcare system functioning well throughout this emergency. While we do not know how many individuals in this community are currently infected, the fact that a very low number of patients are currently hospitalized is a positive current fact. I believe it is my job to do everything within my authority and responsibility to keep these numbers as low as possible, to protect this medical capacity, and to flatten the curve of new infections. Already, the city has taken a number of actions in service of this effort in recent days, as has the state. All of those past actions, I think, are widely known, and for anyone looking for a review of them, they're all posted on the city's website. Today, I am announcing new actions in the city's response. First, I'm declaring an emergency here in the city of Burlington in order to exercise emergency powers to protect public health and safety. Second, starting Wednesday, the city will close or restrict access to all city buildings and curtail many city services in the interest of social distancing. We will suspend in-person programming of the Fletcher Free Library, Burlington City Arts, and Parks, Recreation, and Waterfront Department. Numerous other city services will be suspended or restricted. I think the best way to get the information about these suspensions and restrictions is to point people to the city's website, where we have posted a current summary of what those changes in service will be. I want to stress, first of all, I want to ask for the public's patience and understanding that we are dealing with an unprecedented situation. There is no roadmap for how to handle these curtailments exactly, and thus everything that we are posting in terms of curtailments of city services is subject to change. The current plan is that these closings and curtailments will be in effect until at least April 6th, and very possibly longer. As we are announcing these curtailments, I do want to be clear that we intend to continue many city services throughout the emergency. And in fact, the curtailments are in part an effort to ensure that we are able to provide these other services. The services we plan to continue include at least water, electricity, emergency response from both the police and fire departments, maintenance of streets and sidewalks, and recycling pickup. These include, in addition, there are other services that are going to continue that are sort of back of house operations, but I think it's important to point out that we will need city workers committed to internal functions like human resources and payroll, as I have committed to all city employees that we will ensure that they will continue to be paid no matter what actions or cancellations the city must take during this public health emergency. Third major action, as a further social distancing strategy, I am ordering the closing of all bars and the cessation of in-person dining for 24 hours starting at 6 a.m. tomorrow, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, a day in which we here in Burlington traditionally have very large crowds. And we are doing this in the interest of enforcing the governor's order banning crowds of over 50 people. I believe it is highly likely that these closings and cessations will continue beyond Tuesday, and we are working with the governor and the Department of Health to ensure that that continues. Before announcing further actions, I want to pause here to acknowledge that while we hope these actions will save lives and otherwise protect our community, we know that they will cause economic damage. I have great concern about how these steps and others announced at the state and federal levels will impact hourly wage workers, renters, and small businesses. I know many members of our community have great uncertainty and genuine fear about how they will cope in the immediate future. To address those fears and make sure that we are doing everything possible to ensure that vulnerable members of our community get the help they need in the days, weeks, and months ahead, I have tasked Luke McGowan, again the Director of the Community and Economic Development Office, to head up our relief efforts. In a moment, I will let Luke speak to how CEDO is approaching this work. We expect that as a result of CEDO's efforts to have considerable additional measures and information to share about this relief effort later in the week. We are working as quickly as possible to give people clear and accurate guidance about how we can help and other resources we can point them to. For now, we can announce the following. The city will suspend disconnections of our municipal utility services, electricity and water, for non-payment until further notice. Of course, I do encourage Burlingtonians who can pay these bills to do so. They should continue to do so. Further, I've confirmed that the organizations that house our most vulnerable populations in Burlington, those organizations being Champlain Housing Trust, Burlington Housing Authority, and Cathedral Square, I have confirmed that these organizations have committed to the goal of suspending all evictions, and the city will support them in that effort. Further, I want to urge all private property owners to commit to voluntarily suspending evictions for individuals who can supply documentation of COVID-related economic hardship. Again, I want to repeat, we know that additional steps will be needed, and I've instructed our team at CEDO to review all of the municipal fee waivers, tools, and programs that we can use to offer relief to residents and local businesses in the days and weeks ahead. The announcements I have just made are just the beginning of our efforts to provide relief. I plan to have another announcement regarding a relief package as soon as possible in the coming days. Beyond that, there are many other questions that we will need to work out answers yet, but I want the public to know that in this room and remotely around the city and really everywhere where city workers are, and that includes now city workers working from home, the city team is working as hard as possible and is completely focused on getting answers to these and other questions related to the COVID-19 related disasters. Before taking questions, I want to make a point. I want to thank Governor Scott for his leadership, recognizing the magnitude of this crisis, and for his swift actions and strong actions to address it. I also am really deeply thankful, deeply touched really, for the actions that Burlingtonians of all backgrounds, so many of them, have already taken to protect the community, to protect their neighbors, and to protect elderly populations. We will need much more of this ethic of personal responsibility and sacrifice in the days ahead, as while government actions are critical, we also need all of us taking personal responsibility for getting through this crisis. With that, I'd like to ask Luke McGowan to share a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Mayor directed CEDO, the Community and Economic Development Office, to lead the city's relief efforts. So we've undertaken work interdepartmentally with the broad city team to understand what resources we have available today and what resources we need to identify to bring to relief of Burlington's businesses and most vulnerable communities. So a couple kind of things we're working on. So three main things we're working on. One, we are monitoring what's going on at the federal level. There's a relief package that's currently being worked out. It could be approved as early as Tuesday, but we're tracking potentially Thursday as a date when a package would come from the Hill that would lay out sort of broad support for the workers and businesses that we care most about here in Burlington. And this would include paid leave, free testing, and an additional slew of benefits. So we are engaged getting that information out to our community, and we're also advocating for Burlington in this process. Second thing we're doing is we are working closely with our state and federal partners to bring access to funds and resources that are available today. I want to especially flag the Agency of Commerce and Community Development currently is seeking businesses who are experiencing an impact to go to their website. They have a questionnaire to submit, essentially detailing what impacts they're experiencing today. And CEDO's committed to helping any businesses along with that process to get access to a significant amount of relief funding that's available. We're also working with HUD and a number of other federal agencies to rework the regulations around certain funds that we have today, namely CDBG funds, a revolving loan fund, to make sure that that's available and we can start getting that money out very quickly. Finally, the mayor asked CEDO in particular to look at what programs we could turn on essentially in the next couple of days to bring relief to our businesses as quickly as possible. And we are going to be presenting a package within the next couple of days to give the mayor options and get this money out the door as quickly as possible. So that's how CEDO's approaching this problem right now. And I will say CEDO's mission is always to support our business community and our most vulnerable. And it has made our mission that much more urgent. So the team is already working on this, and throughout we'll be reliant on the community that we're here to support. So thank you.
Thank you, Luke. All right. With that, and with again the caveat that I'm sure there are going to be questions now that we cannot fully answer. Let's open it up.
About that 24-hour bar and restaurant closure effective tomorrow morning, just to reiterate, that could continue longer than 24 hours potentially?
Yeah, not only, let me say a few more things about that. Not only could it continue, I'm very focused on finding a way to make sure that it does continue. At the very least, I strongly urge all bars and restaurants to close but for delivery and takeout service for restaurants. We are mandating that closure tomorrow, and we're reviewing ways of ensuring that, and working with the Department of Health and the governor to ensure that Burlington, that continues to be in effect in Burlington beyond St. Patrick's Day.
Is there any estimate of the financial economic impact on Church Street?
No, you're asking just about St. Patrick's Day or just in general?
Just in general.
I think, no, we are in the, there's a lot we're still figuring out. We do not know, again, most of the changes I just announced, I indicated will be in effect until at least April 6th. It could be longer. I think we are some time from knowing the full extent of the economic impact of the city's actions and all these other actions that governments and private organizations are taking. I am encouraged by how quickly it appears that our partners, the state and the federal government, seem to be moving. I think everyone in government is aware. I believe, from my sense is that all of us working on this are aware of two big things. One, that swift action is necessary to save lives, and two, that along with that action comes real economic impact and a immediate follow-on responsibility of those of us in government is to find ways to mitigate that economic impact, particularly for the most vulnerable populations, which I see as low-income populations. I see as hourly workers, renters in general that need to make a monthly payment in order to stay in their homes, and certainly small businesses we think are going to face real significant challenges here. Again, you just heard how the city is really reorienting itself, redeploying resources to make sure that we have questions about that relief effort as soon as possible beyond the announcements that I just made today.
Have you been in touch with any of the affected purveyors downtown, as far as, for instance, the delis and all of that stuff that goes along with it?
So, communications in a crisis like this are challenging. We're doing our best to, in an organized way, stay in close touch with Burlington stakeholders. We had a conference call with many leadership organizations earlier today at 1 o'clock today. That, I believe, is the third time that this group, that we've given a briefing to this group. And beyond those conference calls, yes, we have had many members, really many leaders within the bar and restaurant sector in communication with the administration. My sense is there is strong support for clarity and clear action from the city, and I'm sure there will be some who disagree with this action, but I also am confident that many will be supportive of it, and it may in fact be, many of them will be supportive of it.
It's not coming as a surprise to.
We have done our best to telegraph, including this telephone town meeting yesterday that included we believe more than 3,000 people participated in that live, and many others have watched the Facebook Live recording since. We have been trying to signal that major changes were coming here in Burlington. The virus is here in Chittenden County now. It is going to disrupt the economy. It is going to disrupt lives. So I would hope that today's announcement is not a large surprise to anyone. We have been working to avoid that.
Are you going to look into the possibility of like takeout, or you call in, pick the?
So thank you for clarifying that. I was trying to be clear in my announcement. At this time, takeout, pickup, and delivery services from food establishments, we are not. Those should continue. We are not in any way restricting those. We think that they are in fact important for. It's an important way that people are going to continue to be fed through this crisis. We think it's an important service to continue, and we hope that it is a significant ongoing source of revenue for these impacted businesses. I am very impressed by how quickly the industry here in Burlington has organized, has shared best practices, has anticipated this change, and stood up new methods and practices for reorienting their service. I've heard of numerous restaurants that never did takeout service before that have started that because they saw this change coming. It is that kind of Burlington ingenuity and can-do attitude that gives me a lot of confidence, a lot of hope that we're going to make it through this crisis no matter what the days ahead.
And I'll be the last, this is the last one, I promise. But not food shelves, but like soup kitchens and meal sites and things like that, are you still gonna allow those to happen, or are we holding off on that since it's sort of like a restaurant situation?
Again, what's being restricted here are bars and in-service dining. So this announcement should not impact the food shelf or any relief agency like that. I think if there are places, to the degree those services have, are serving meals, not just being places for people to take meals and leave, I think they would be impacted
Right,
by this.
so they, in other words, take it to go cup.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just
Because remember what we're trying to do here, right? We are, social distancing is the only thing that we know can stop the spread of this virus. We want people as much as possible at least 6 feet apart. We want people to, okay, Luke just confirmed, the food shelf is doing takeout. These social distancing strategies are what is going to slow down the spread of this virus. It's what's going to flatten the curve, and that's what these strategies are aimed at doing.
I just want to clarify, so starting at 6 a.m. tomorrow, can restaurants, bars, can they do takeout and delivery services, or are they just closed for the day for 24 hours?
They can do takeout and delivery, well, restaurants can do takeout and delivery services. We're not launching a new kind of bar delivery capacity. Bars are closed, are to be closed. Restaurants we are encouraging takeout and delivery services to remain open.
Okay. And then I did want to ask, we have seen a lot of people who want to help in situations like this.
Yes.
Is there a place that people can go or a number they can call if they have maybe extra food or toilet paper and they want to donate those items?
So, thank you for the question. We have, you're completely right. There is, and it's another example of the greatness of this community, how many people want to help, are acting with generosity, offering resources of all types. The city is, here's what I can say about this point. We are aware of the desire to help, the capacity to help. We have begun conversations, in particular with Age Well, which is an organization that relies on volunteers to distribute meals to the elderly, and I'm not sure, Luke, if you have an update on those discussions yet. If you let me know.
Send people to the website.
Okay,
We'll
so
have information about volunteers.
So those conversations are underway. We do envision the city website being a source of a lot of information about these volunteer opportunities in the days ahead. We are eager to focus on that. We need to get through these public health steps first. We will be doing what we can as a city to coordinate and support that effort in the days ahead.
And does the closures of restaurants, is there any closure for stores and other like non-food establishments, just like shops on Church Street?
You're asking, beyond the bars and restaurants, are there additional restrictions being announced here? At this point, no, but it is possible that there will be further restrictions soon to come.
Okay. So shops can still operate as normally, like clothing stores and spas?
I want to encourage anyone to operate as normally. Again, I've been very heartened to see how organizations of all types are making changes to the way in which they serve the public to try to make those interactions as safe as possible. And I support and encourage those efforts to continue. On an individual household level, I encourage people to think very seriously about the social distancing and how they will ensure that they are protecting themselves and therefore protecting the rest of the community through exercising significant social distancing methods. So I don't think anything is happening like normal. The additional city regulations announcing today are limited to what I've just said. There certainly could be additional changes and announcements in the days to come.
There's a petition going around calling for a moratorium on evictions during this time, maybe for the next 3 or so weeks. Have you put any thought into that? Are you planning on maybe enforcing or?
Right. Okay. Well, let me speak to that again. Here's what we announced today on this. One, in terms of payments to the city that are kind of related to people's housing, we are suspending any shutoffs of electricity or water services for non-payment. We are encouraging people who can pay to continue to do so, but we will not be shutting off those services until further notice as a result of non-payment. In addition, we've confirmed that the organizations that are responsible for housing the most vulnerable households, or at least the great majority of the most vulnerable households here in Burlington, those organizations being Champlain Housing Trust, Burlington Housing Authority, and Cathedral Square, those organizations have committed to the goal of not evicting during this period. In addition, and I'll repeat this, I have called for private property owners to voluntarily suspend evictions for tenants who can establish that they have COVID-19 related economic hardship. I believe there may well be additional conversations about what the government can do in this area in Montpelier. Those are the announcements on this topic that we have for today. These different things we're talking about, of course, relate to each other, right? I think if we and the state and the federal government get a coordinated relief plan in place quickly, that too will matter greatly, I think, in people being able to stay current with various payments. So there's a lot going on in this area. All the questions cannot be answered yet. We understand the urgency to answer them, and Luke's team is working as hard as they can to get further answers on that as soon as possible. Olivia, were there other questions coming in to you electronically?
We had invited members of the media to watch online and email me. There were a few specific questions about takeout and delivery that I was able to respond to over email. There are many comments happening from residents in the Facebook comments. I think we will work on developing an FAQ, as there are many related questions and comments. Great. There.
Just to make sure all the microphones sort of pick that up, even though Olivia's sitting over there. It sounds like this press conference is being broadcast on Facebook Live. As with yesterday's broadcast, there are a large number of questions that are coming in that go beyond, as we've said before, we know there's a lot of questions still to be answered. We are developing an FAQ document from yesterday's event, and we'll add to that questions that have come in response to this event, and we will get that information out as quickly as we can. Thank you all. Appreciate you being here. Stay safe, everyone.